Yes, carts and cameras. I'm running 1 minute late. I'm so sorry. I needed my coffee. It's been a long day. Hi. So we're going to go and beyond tonight, just, like we usually do. I'll probably cut it out sometime, probably around 8 o'clock-ish, like we usually do. The real reality is I am tired as all get out. Actually, let me fix my lighting for 5 seconds here. I just realized I forgot to turn that on. Oh, there we go. Nope, that's too bright now. I don't know. Can you guys see that better now? Anyways, so yeah, I've had a ton going on today. I've been at it since like 8:30 this morning, getting up and being on my way by 9. Working on a JCB skid steer with a friend of mine. And then if you guys saw the picture that I posted up, I've been taking down a 10 by 17 Harbor Freight tent that went to snot in a windstorm. And I'm going to be setting that up here in order to be able to store some machines over the winter, so we can still be able to pull machines in order to have projects to work on this winter, and things like that. And we cut up and worked on probably about 3 cord worth of wood or so today, and got that loaded up on a friend's 5-ton trailer. We loaded probably about 2.5 cord or so on the trailer today, and got that moved over, and so that was good. But yeah, so we're making progress. I've been moving a ton of stuff around the yard, still getting things organized. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to release to you guys what the winter builds are going to be, because I'm still waiting to get some parts in. We've got, basically Maine winter is basically about 3.5 to 4 months long. So I've got some parts that are still on order. Some of them aren't showing up until probably the 4th. And as soon as I can go and get those parts in and get the garage organized, we'll be releasing what this winter's build projects are going to be and focusing on that. Right now, I've got probably 3 videos in the works that I'm working on right now. Send it or bend it. Hey, I have a few mowers that need work if you would like them for free. So send it or bend it. Are you in Maine? I get people who offer me free stuff all the time until they realize I'm in Maine and that there's no bloody way I could ever get to it in order to go and pull it. But I do have a bunch of machines that I'm actually potentially pulling with a friend of mine later. I got talking with them about that. Freiburg, Maine. I don't even have a clue where in the world.
They're almost in New Hampshire.
Oh, they're on the New Hampshire line?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, dude. You're way too far away from me.
It's a nice trip, though.
Yeah, that would be.
8 weeks.
Say what?
It's 8 weeks.
Yeah, that would be like, that's like a solid 3-hour one-way drive from here. The border of Maine down where you're talking about living is easily a 3-hour drive. Yeah, road trip is right. All right, let me see if I can catch up on what you guys are writing up here.
8 weeks.
Let's see.
I'm game.
Hey, howdy, Lauren. Glad to have you here, bud. I've been setting stuff aside in order to go and work on the forge project this winter. I've got a whole bunch of stuff figured out. I've got a bunch of area cleaned up and ready to go for that. And we'll be working on that this winter. Let's see. What mower is your favorite to work on? Pretty much my go-to answer on that is anything that's based on an AYP chassis. So if you're talking about Craftsman's, you're usually talking like the LT2000s, the DL3000s, any of the AYP styles, like the Weed Eaters that are on an AYP chassis, the Pool and Pro series that are on an AYP chassis. And they're pretty easy and distinct to go and be able to tell whether it's a Weed Eater, a Craftsman, a Pool In, a Wizard. They all have the exact same layout on their dashboard. They all have the same hood. It's just a different color. And they all get the same rear fenders that are all the same color. And the reason being is for that reason is they're easy to work on and all of the parts interchange. It doesn't matter whether it's a Weed Eater, a Craftsman, a Pool In, a Wizard, some of the Airines, all of the hood swap, the fender swap, the frames are entirely interchangeable. The steering is interchangeable. Everything swaps over. So do your research, and pretty much anything that's based on an AYP chassis is my favorite to work on. And they just, once you learn how they come apart, they're like the Volkswagen Beetles from the 70s. If you've ever seen like the fastest engine change videos and stuff like that, it's those Volkswagen Beetles. And that's basically what I like in the AYPs too, is that they're the Volkswagen Beetle. Anybody can start it as a project. Anybody can tear it down to frame, and anybody can put it back together. You really have to be quite not here to be able to screw up putting an AYP back together, including mowing deck and all the accessories and everything. They're just simple. Hunter says, "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" Sí, bien. That's probably about the most Spanish that you will hear me speaking, so please don't bother asking anything else. I passed my Spanish class in high school by knowing Puedo ir al baño, which is where is the bathroom. Necesito hamburguesa ese cafe, which is I want a hamburger with a coffee. And that's pretty much about it. That's how I ended up passing my Spanish class. So don't bother with any more Spanish. I'm not going to know much. I got a Craftsman GT5000 Hydro, wondering what rear end it has. It's most likely a Turfmaster rear end, but it's going to be, so Turfmaster is to lawn tractors what LSs are to Chevys. You've got like your Turfmasters that are like the 36 and the 46, which are like your 4.8 and your 5.7 LS type stuff. They're the low end of the spectrum. And then you've got your big Turfmasters. And there is a huge difference in price and capability. The Turfmaster that's in a GT5000 is about one step up from a Peerless 316. The Peerless 316 is the one that you see in the cheaper MTDs, the cheaper Cub Cadets, just those machines. The 316s are the lower tier of the Hydros. And then you've got the 36 and the 46 of the Turfmasters, which is kind of like your difference between like going from a Spicer to a Peerless in the standard transmission bracket. And then you've got your Turfmaster, which is, I think it's a 71 series, which is like your 820 version of the Turfmaster. If you're looking for the top input pulley style, that's the one you're looking for. That is the big kahune. Those are found in a lot of really large John Deeres, and they're really noticeable and easy to tell because they've got 1-inch axles. The reason why those became famous, actually, for those of you who want to really get into something weird, V8 bar stools when they were a fad, actually used a Turf Master. I think it was a 71 or a 72. I don't remember what the number was, but it was a 1-inch axle Turf Master. And instead of being flat, it was put up on its side so that way they could straight drive it off of a V8. And as long as you spun it at a certain RPM, it worked fine. That's the thing about dealing with hydros and why it is that they're so prolific, is that a hydro doesn't care about horsepower. A hydro cares about RPMs. As long as you can consistently power it at whatever the RPM is that it wants its input at, it doesn't care whether you got 6 horsepower or whether you got 600 horsepower. It will always drive the same. Now, granted, there is a certain amount of input where you need to have enough torque in order to deal with when the motor bogs down with the hydro. Don't get me wrong, that's part of the equation. But as far as how fast it'll drive, given the same mile to go and drive and get up to speed, you could theoretically go and power a hydro with like 3 horsepower. If you had enough runway, it would still always do the same 8 miles per hour. So that's one of the things about hydros. And that's the reason why Bouncer only has like I think it's like a 13.5 or a 14 horsepower motor in it. And that machine originally came with a 25 horsepower motor. And yet you guys have seen it out on the trail. It keeps up and it goes through some stuff that even Mud Wizard doesn't go through. So, and that's got an open diff in it. That's even the sadder part. So don't discount hydros. Just keep in mind there are tiers of hydros. Hunter says, I am 16. I had to quit my job because of COVID, and I taught myself how to fix mowers, and you are my biggest inspiration. I have made a ton. There are not very many kids that do this. Thank you. Hey, that's what I'm here for. Back before my comments got shut off by YouTube during this whole protect the kids stupidity thing that's going on, I actually, one of my favorite videos is the video about installing the deck engagement cable. I would get people all the time, especially single moms and single dads and stuff. Apparently, most of the shops down south, they charge 2 hours. They charge 2 hours to install one of those cables. And most of the shops charge $60 an hour to install a $15 cable. I couldn't believe it when people started responding with me that there were shops that were charging $120 plus the cost of the cable with markup to do that repair. And that's part of what really ended up just catapulting me into doing what I did. And what I still do is the how-to videos, because it's amazing to me what shops charge to go and do that stuff, especially those Craftsman cables. You literally don't even have to drop the deck on a Craftsman cable. If you know what you're doing, it takes you less than 10 minutes, 15 at the very most. And that is if the gas tank screws decide to go and screw you on coming out. Otherwise than that, the rest of it just pops right apart. And that's part of why I started doing this. Oh, speaking of that, as far as kids and stuff like that, and carts and cameras, send me an email, get back to me or whatever, and stuff like that. Are you guys familiar with a program that's called SteamYard, or actually it's a website called SteamYard? I've been debating whether we could do a live chat and pull some of you guys in to discuss during the live chat, in order to be able to ask live questions or have live discussions about your projects and stuff like that. SteamYard allows me to be able to pick exactly who comes up into the chat and stuff like that. But in order to do that, you guys have got to go and keep it PG, and we got to keep it on topic. So you know, if you guys with smaller channels and stuff like that, if you want to get together and maybe we can figure out a time or maybe a time of week or a day or something, and maybe do like I don't know, maybe a once a month SteamYard chat or something like that. Um, I've watched a lot of other channels decide to do the SteamYard stuff, but it tends to turn into a bunch of idiots just babbling instead of a focused discussion. And I'd rather not be the Wednesday night bunch of idiots babbling. I'd rather it be like it is here, where there's questions and involvement and you guys being able to go back and forth with me. Only maybe have you come up with a webcam or something and join. So yeah, maybe one of you with a channel or something that you want to go and grow. Maybe we could do a invite me over and we'll do a SteamYard on your channel, and then maybe we'll do some back here on this channel. Maybe like a once a month thing in order to discuss what people are doing for projects this winter. You know, just something I'm spitballing out there to go and see for a new idea to bring in. You should do a full restoration on a lawn tractor. Jonathan, that's an irony that your name is Jonathan. I had to pause there for a sec. I actually have to argue with John at least probably once every couple of weekends, because there is a tractor here that he wants to do a full restoration on. And I tell you what, every time we are near the thing, he goes out of his way to make sure to sit on it and give me hell that we haven't worked on it on the YouTube channel. So thanks, Jonathan, for being the John of my life, telling me I need to restore a tractor, because there is one here on the property that my son is absolutely obsessed with. That's part of the reason why it is that we ended up doing the Yardbird, is because I want John to have an interaction with something that is meaningful to him, and work through the restoration of something meaningful to him, and see the headaches that you have to go through along with the positive emotions of it, before we start in on one that I know is going to be a giant headache. There is one that I want to do, but I want John to go through the learning experience on the Yardbird, so that way if we blow something up or whatever, it's something cheap and not something worth money. There is one here that's worth restoring. It is actually worth money in the market around me. And when we get through with the Yardbird more, so that John has the learning experiences, we're going to work on that idea. My goal is to pull that out sometime late spring and make it so that maybe it's a once a month project update or something, so that during the summertime we can be hunting for some of the parts it's going to need to finish. And speaking of which, I need to go and talk to iSave Tractors and check out whether Norm might actually have a part for it, because his last iSave Tractors video, he did a walk around on his yard of machines that will someday be restored. And he's actually got one in that yard. And Norm actually only lives about, I think he's about a 2-ish hour drive from me. He lives kind of weirdly kittied in the state. So Maine's kind of weird in that you've got I-95, which runs up and then over kind of sideways and then up again in the state of Maine. And you've got Route 3, which runs out of Belfast directly this way. You've got Route 1 running this way, and you got Route 1 running this way. But it means that there's almost nothing for... Well, you've got Route 7 running north. But it means that as far as nice, good roads to ride on, in these two directions, you basically have nothing. And once you hit 95, if anything's up this way or anything's over this way, you have to cut over and then over, or up and then over to get to. So as the crow flies, in a straight line, it might only be 50 miles away. But as far as your driving is concerned, it's closer to 70 miles away because of the way Maine is set up. So it's rather irritating sometimes if you try to drive somewhere outside of the I-95 radius. And that's part of the reason why it is I only hunt. Usually I tractor hunt within about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes of my house, is because once you clear that I-95 radius, everything becomes weird boondock roads, and usually Google Map doesn't work so well. I've had Google Map try to take me down. I've had it try to take me down ATV trails. I've had it try to take me down discontinued logging trails. I have had it try to take me down snowmobile trails.
Don't forget the mountain.
I had it try to go and take me up a mountain. So once you get past I-95, by about 15 minutes to about 20 minutes past I-95, becomes more of a suggestion than a service. And so you need to know the area. That's the problem with that. Let's see here. I just bought a Craftsman LT2000. I love LT2000s. Those are just utterly, totally baseline, no frills. Once you remove all the utterly stupid safety switches in those, which, by the way, if the safety switch in that even remotely is stupid in the seat, just bypass it. They get corroded on the inside, and they just plain don't work at all. Just, yeah. Let's see. Hey, Lauren. Jesse. Lauren says that you didn't ship him the kittens to eat.
She wasn't pregnant.
Oh, she wasn't pregnant. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so our cat ended up not being pregnant. Our cat just apparently was stealing every single bit of bacon fat she could get a hold of and ended up ballooning. Like, this cat went from being like 3 pounds soaking wet to like 8 pounds worth of belly hanging on the floor of bacon grease. She went on a bacon grease binge. She was getting up on the counter, and we didn't realize that she was eating out of the dump off, because Jesse and I take turns in cooking, and so we never realized that it was never really changing the height because she was eating out of it so consistently. So there's no kittens to send you, Lauren. I'm sorry.
You wouldn't eat them anyways. I wouldn't let you.
Let's see. Send it or bend it says I have property near Ellsworth if that's closer.
Yes.
Yes, Ellsworth is way closer. So yeah, if you want to go and send me an email, as you guys know, it's Maine is in the state, mudmower@yahoo.com. If you want to send me an email sometime, we can figure out something if that's what you want. I'm always accepting free machines in the area. I clean up for people all the time. That the part out money in machines right now is next to nothing. And so people are constantly getting rid of stuff. And scrap metal, have any of you hauled scrap metal lately? I was talking with a buddy of mine, and apparently cars in my area right now are $60 a ton. I have never seen it as low as it has been lately. I mean, the last time I hauled cars in, it was probably about 6 years ago. And when I was hauling in, it was still $100 a ton and $60 a ton. Can you imagine that? I mean, that's just not even worth hauling a vehicle in at all now. Any ideas on repower in tractors? Repower is all up to your own personal skill. I don't talk usually about repowers because anybody can sit there and grab a single cylinder Briggs and Stratton overhead valve engine and swap it out for the same exact overhead valve engine in a machine. But repowers require you to have an understanding of the basic principles of how it runs and to be able to deal with the mechanical side of the repower. And so I don't ever tell people, yes, it's easy to do a repower, because to me it's easy, but to somebody who's never done it, like say you take a Briggs and Stratton, say you take a Briggs and Stratton with an independent carb machine and with an independent choke Briggs and Stratton, and you try and swap in a Kohler with an integrated choke. You've got to know how to go and set up your throttle so that it's got the choke engagement. You're going to have to swap out your throttle so that it's got a throttle with a choke engagement option. And you're going to have to know how to go and figure out the length. You're going to have to know how to tune it. You're going to have to know all of that. And so I don't usually say this is the easiest way to repower something, because easy for me is not always easy for somebody else. I'll gladly show you when I do repowers. I do all kinds of repowers on the channels all the time. And I'll show you what I ran into so that you guys can follow it and understand more. But as far as, hey, just do this, it's an easy repower, I don't have recommendations for that. I'll show you what I do, but that's where I'm at on that. Although when it comes to repowers, I've got a bunch of repower stuff coming up. I've got some very interesting repower ideas coming up that we're going to go and try and pull off. Let's see. I mow every year with a mower just like the bug-eyed racer you ran. They're great little mowers when they work. The problem is they rust out really, really, really fast up here in Maine. That machine there, that the bug-eyed machine, that was another one where the decks literally just taco under the machine. If you watch those decks and you deal with them, they rust right down through the center between the two pulleys. And all of a sudden you'll be mowing and they will just taco and they'll pull to the side. And you can tell, you can see looking, you don't even have to go and look under the machine to tell, because the pulley will literally be bent up. I pick them up all the time like that. The black MTDs are the same way. The black MTDs have the exact same deck stamped out. They're just a little bit less reinforced. And you will walk up to one of those and you'll see that the pulley is tilted straight up at you. And I don't even bother asking people what went wrong. I'd honestly rather walk up and see one of those taco decks than anything else, because what it means is that when that person gave up on it, the motor was running. And if that motor was running when they gave up on it 2 years ago, there's probably about a 90% chance that I'm guaranteed to get it back up and running. And so that is my favorite thing to see, is those MTDs with a taco deck. Let's see. Oh, wow. You guys have been bouncing around here. All right, let's see if we can get caught up here because you guys, holy cow, you've blown up the chat. Wow, guys. I feel bad. I had a chance to pick up a vintage case for $50 and it got sold before I picked it up. It ran and Brent. Yeah, that's the problem with tractor hunting is you got to be right then and there. Like, I don't even bother tractor hunting. I don't even log in and check on Marketplace and stuff like that most of the time, unless I know that without question, within half an hour, I can be on the road going to go get it. It is utterly worth the heart wrench. It is utterly not worth the heart wrench of logging in the middle of work to find a tractor that you want, to know that you're stuck dealing with something for 4 hours and it's going to be gone by the time you get done with that work. Don't even bother ever checking Marketplace unless you know you can drop everything and be driving. That is one thing that I totally tell everybody to keep in mind. Yes, AYP mower decks are very recognizable. That is something that definitely stands them apart. And yet again, interchangeable. It doesn't matter whether it's a cheap 38-inch deck or whether it is an all the way up through to a 12 gauge, I'm going to go and run over the neighbor's well house and keep mowing deck. They're all interchangeable.
You have 6 quarters on you?
No, I don't have 6 quarters on me. Let's see. Oh, apparently Lauren's done Beetle engine swaps. Yeah, Beetle engine swaps are what I usually compare AYPs to, because if you know what you're doing on an AYP chassis, especially if it's a single cylinder Briggs that's on it, if it's a single cylinder Briggs on an AYP chassis and you can't have that motor out of that chassis in less than 15 minutes with an impact gun, then you shouldn't be working on a mower. If you have an impact gun, there is no reason that shouldn't be out of there in less than 15 minutes. With the one exception of the engine pulley deciding to be stupid, and that's about it. Otherwise than that, it should be off. Wait, I thought you said you would be wearing a costume for the Halloween live stream.
This isn't
Very
Halloween
good.
One.
This isn't Halloween. So on Halloween night, John is insisting he wants to do live chat. So on Halloween night, we will see if we can do a live chat. Actually, as far as you guys are concerned, maybe on StreamYard, we could do the Halloween live chat in order to be able to go and get other people in here. That might be a good idea as far as, being able to talk and have everybody have a chance and whatever. How much pulling power does a Peerless 700 transmission have? Are they any good? Thanks. Peerless 700 transmissions are good for one thing. They are good for circle track racing. Let me tell you one thing they are not good for is drag racing. I've seen some of the aftermath of the guys trying to drag race those, and they literally split them entirely, case in half and everything. They're not good for mud mowers either, because the case halves, they torque and they split big time. Peerless 700s are good for speed. They're good for being able to gear ratio. They're good for speed. They're good for that kind of stuff. Whoop, that's got burps in it. So that's what I recommend them for. I don't recommend. They're great for building hot rod builds also. If you want something that you can have a center shift and be able to have live axle and stuff like that, that's the other thing a 700 is great for. Let me see. Eight miles is slow. Yes, most of your hydros usually are 8 miles per hour. I do have a 12 mile per hour hydro that I built, but I'm trying to refine it a little bit more before I show you guys. but we did break 12 miles per hour with a Peerless 316. And I did have to modify it. I did have to pull it apart, but we'll talk about that in the video when I release that to you guys. You guys actually have seen the tractor running around on the channel for almost 3.5 months now. It has a modified hydro in it that does 12 miles per hour, that has been hauling gravel, has hauled 7 lawn tractor carcasses, probably hauled off, I'm going to bet, at least 2,000 pounds worth of scrap steel to the junk pile. The hydro keeps going even though it's modified. And that's the thing that I wanted. I wanted to test it for 3 months worth of real world use and consistently running it before I released it to you guys, because I didn't want to go and say, hey, I did 12 miles per hour, have everybody clone it, and then blow every transmission to smithereens across the United States. I wanted to make sure that I could release something to you guys that was clonable, that you guys could do, and you could get that extra few miles per hour. I'm 13 and I built a lawnmower go-kart because you inspired me. Thanks, dude. I really appreciate that. I just locked my mudmower transaxle last night. Oh, you are in for a learning experience. For anybody who is new to doing the mud mowers and the lawn tractor transaxles and locking them, one of the things that I tell everybody as a new person to it, is test drive it in a very open area. Bring it up to speed and do some turns in a very open area. And the reason being is, first of all, once you lock it, they flip way easier. That's one thing that doesn't get discussed enough, is that once you lock the rear end on a lawn tractor, they are far easier to flip than they are unlocked. The second thing is their turn radius becomes 3 times the size it was. And anybody who wants to argue that obviously has never actually driven one with bear claws or any actual aggressive tires on the rear. If you have turf savers on a locked transmission, you can drift it and you can keep your turn radius small by drifting it through the turns. But if you have bear claws on, or you have grizzlies, or you have the Wanda knockoffs or anything like that, Sun Fs, anything with a decent tread, you're going to have a turn radius that's 3 times bigger, and you're not going to drift it on bear claws. Trust me, I have tried for years. So keep that in mind. That's just my one thing I definitely, pass on to people, is take it for a test drive in a very open area. And don't bring it up to speed until you're sure you're used to the turn radius, because you're gonna overshoot stuff for a good day or two of driving. You're gonna take a turn way too sharp without slowing down, and you're gonna end up off in the brambles. I love working on mowers now because of you. Thank you. I'm glad that I can help you work on them. They're not all that complicated. It's just a matter of getting past that. My grandfather used to go and tell me, if it's already broken, what the hell's it matter if you tear it apart to try and fix it? Even if you don't fix it, it's still broken. But if you fix it, then you're the hero. That's the thing about it, is that free lawn tractors, what's it matter if you tear it apart to try and fix it if you have a free lawn tractor? Broken is still broken. But on the other hand, you manage to get the thing working, all of a sudden you got a minimum of $250, $300 right there. Like, you went from zero to hero instantly. And that's one of the things that I tell people all the time. I don't care what it is. I don't care whether it's this iron. I don't care whether it's a cell phone. I don't care whether it's a fan. I don't care what it is. If I need it, or I think I can make money off of it, and it's broken, I'll tear it apart no matter what, because no matter what, you can't do worse than zero. In fact, if you tear it apart, you can break it down into what it is actually worth money to scrap out. And at that point, you're doing better than zero. So no matter what, you still make money. Tear it apart, try and fix it. Learn something. Let's see. I wish the AYP never switched to the stupid cable. The metal linkage system was so much better. The metal linkage system was a lot more consistent, that's for sure. Although the problem with the metal linkage system that you're actually, Hunter, I believe I'm a little bit older than you, if I remember right. In the 10 years or so that I've been doing this, the problem that I ran into with that was that the linkage system would wear itself sideways and you'd end up with a wear mark in it. And if you didn't have welding capabilities, they basically were not fixable. You had to have a welder to be able to fix those when they wore down. Whereas with the cable system, any idiot with a 10 millimeter socket and a flathead screwdriver and a pair of needle nose pliers could be able to do it. But in order to fix the linkage system ones, you had to have a welder in order to weld in the wear mark area and then regrind it for it to work. So yeah, I did like those better because you could fix them, but you needed a tool that not everybody has. Oh, Carts and Cameras already messaged me about the Steam Yard. Okay, Carts and Cameras, we'll figure out something then, and we'll see what we can do. What locker is better out of the lockers that I've made? The zinc locker or the locker block? To be quite honest, I never, ever, ever blew up the zinc locker. And I did plowing with that thing for like 3 years. I put it back in and out of multiple projects. The problem that I ran into with the zinc locker, though, was that, and I'm assuming it's because the bull gear doesn't float on the zinc locker the way that it does on a locker block, is that it would tend to heat up and it would roast the grease out of the transmission. And so I ended up with the zinc locker transmission. I ended up having to pull it apart and re-grease it because it would burn off the automatic transmission fluid out of it and boil it over on a regular basis. And that could have also been that I just had something out of alignment in that transmission, but I never blew it up. As far as locker blocks are concerned, you will at some point, whether it's a Lincoln locker, whether it's a locker block, whether it is my friend claims he is a welder, whatever type situation, you will at some point snap the sintered steel that the spider gears are made out of. Now, the thing about a locker block, though, is that a locker block will always get you home when you snap one of those. But you will end up with a really weird clicking in the rear end that's going to give you a warning that you better cut it out and you better get home with it. So what happens in the locker block is that you've got your gears for the side of your spicers and your axles are going through here. And you've got where your locker block is. And if you weld your locker block correctly, then you've got weld going into your spider gears like this from your locker block. So your block cuts off here, but your weld goes in like this. And what happens with the locker block is when it cracks this gear. So it cracks off a couple of the teeth, it shatters them or whatever. But the locker block, because the weld is like this, will find a spot that it will catch. and you'll feel it. It'll kunk, and then it'll stay, and you'll have a locker differential for a while, and then you'll snap another one of those welds, and it'll get you home. But if you ever feel it and you find that looseness in there, that's the reason why it is what you guys don't see is with my locker block setup. What you guys don't see is my pregame for going on the trail. If I know I'm going out on the trail, one of the first things that I always do is I jack up the rear of Mud Wizard, and I check and I grab both sides and I go like this with it on the tires. Because if my locker block is still solid, then there's no play. There's a little bit, but not hardly any. But if my locker block broke and snapped one of those synthers while I was riding the last time, I'll have about an eighth to about a quarter inch of play, and then the lock will hit. And then I'll be able to turn it, and there'll be an open for about a quarter, and then the lock will hit. And that's where that broken off syntherd is catching as it comes around on that spider gear. And it'll get you home, but you better pay attention. The other reason why I like a locker block is that you can re-weld it. As long as when you take that apart, you pay attention to where everything was. In a pinch, you can take where it broke off on that syntherd, and you can just slam it full of weld, and you can be back up and running in a matter of like half an hour. If you know what you're doing, if you've done lockers before, just be careful taking that top part of the case off and cover over everything. And where it's sitting, just zap it and then rotate it, zap it and then rotate it, then clean the grease off, drop it back in, and then do your full weld and go back and forth. That's the thing I like about the locker block. If you have a Lincoln locker where you just weld that stupid pin in those spider gears, if you snap that pin or you snap off whatever, your locker's done, and most likely your transmission went with it. How is John liking his Yardman, the Yardbird? He loves it. He loves it. He loves talking about it. He loves showing it around. I need to go and figure out a clutch system for him. And I need to figure out a clutch system for him, and I need to figure out a emergency shut off. I need to figure out a slap kill switch for it so that he has a oh my god moment cutoff for it. You know, that's the thing that he wants. John is one of those kids, he understands his limitations way better than most kids do. And so he's very open about where he finds them. And luckily, that's a good thing. Have I been able to move the Jeep yet? No, I haven't. Actually, the Jeep was going to be on my list of things to go and move, but I ended up actually getting a free Harbor Freight set of tent poles for a 10 by 17 tent, and the end cap for it is actually still good. Well, good as it can be, being 3 years old. And so I'm going to end up setting that up where I was planning on parking the Jeep. And I'd like to have that set up before winter ends up coming in, because at 17 feet long, that's going to give me just barely enough space to fit 6 machines in there. And if I could fit 6 machines worth of work for this winter in there, that would mean 6 machines worth of content for you guys to watch, which I know isn't much, but that's actually way better than what I was planning on, because that means I'll end up with 3 machines in the garage and 6 machines in the tent, which means we go from you guys watching 9 machines worth of projects. I mean, from 3 machines worth of projects to 9 machines potentially worth of projects. Outside of whatever I break out of the snow in the spring. So I decided that getting the Jeep up and running versus being able to give you guys content over the winter, the content over the winter trumps Jeep at this point. Let's see. I love that little Yardbird tractor. I'm thinking about doing something like it. It really wasn't that hard. It was really simple, very straightforward. And like I said in the video, check out Parts and Pieces, the YouTuber that inspired me to do that. And please, please subscribe to him, support him. Parts and Pieces is a very down-to-earth guy. And he will talk to you just like I talk to you guys. He's very straightforward, very honest, and down-to-earth type guy. Go subscribe to him. Make sure that, you know, bug him. Tell him Redneck Computer Geek sent me or something. And he'll get a laugh out of it. Please. Let's see. Lauren needs to do a full restore on his case 195. It's as old as me.
Are you sure?
Awesome.
He had a birthday.
Let me see. How far am I from Acton, Maine? Honey, how far away is Acton, Maine from us? Can you Google that?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see. Christine, what?
ACTON.
ACTON.
Almost 3 hours.
Oh, Jesse says that's 3 hours away. I don't think we'll be getting there anytime soon.
2 hours, 41 minutes.
Let's see.
With tolls.
Yep. Let's see. Do I talk to Fearless Front at all? The answer is no. No, I discontinued anything to do with Fearless a long time ago. Let's just say I like helping people. I like talking to people, and I like reality. I like real stuff, and I don't like fake news and fake videos and yeah, just stuff. He does his thing, and let me word it this way. I like documentaries. Other people, well, they like fantasies. Let's see. Somebody's buying a truck. Good for you. Trucks are nice to have. It's a good way to go and be able to do extra stuff. I always support anybody that picks up a small little, you know, half-ton Chevy 2-wheel drive, a Ford Ranger, half-ton Tacomas, anything like that. Anything that gets you to the point that you can haul a small trailer really ups your game on what you're capable of doing. The moment you have a truck that's capable of hauling a small trailer, then at that point, you go from being able to you go from, hey, drop it off to my house, to, hey, I'll come get 3 machines at once and clean your yard. And that is a game changer when you do what I do. Like the moment that you can sit there and be like, sure, I'll show up, I'll get the lawn tractor, I'll clean up that power washer, I'll take that snowblower, I'll take that old tractor that's out behind and get it the heck off of your yard so that your wife is happy. And then while you're there, you still have more room so that then when they're walking around their yard going, oh man, I forgot about this stupid push mower, you just sit there and go, oh, well, you know, I junk out stuff. If you want to throw it on the trailer, go ahead. And the best part is most of the time they will load the trailer for you. The moment you open that door, you have to be careful sometimes, because the moment you open that door, it's no holds barred on what some people will decide to offload. I have come home with table saws. I have come home with 5 pressure washers that had dead pumps over the years, just because I said, hey, if you don't want, I junk. I have come home with 7 free snowblowers, I bet, probably in the last 2 or 3 years. I have come home with at least 5 or 6 free rototillers in the last 3 years.
You had that grill.
I came home with a grill for free. And all because I had the trailer and I had the extra space, and they just wanted it gone. They wanted to go and clean up. And so, you know, just that ups your game massively on what you're capable of and what you can offer for a service when you show up to the client. And the other thing that getting to that trailer point does is not just the 3-up. It's also the fact that you have a trailer which is lower to the ground, which is nicer on the machines, and you do less damage while you're loading machines, especially if they have blown tires. If the tires are screwed, or the deck is screwed, or it's got one of the flaws that AYPs have, that I'll openly state is a flaw that you see in AYPs a lot, is that the way that their decks are built, when they do end up having a blade come around and it cuts in on the underside of a root or something, they are so torquey on the deck setups that they will take and they will bend a blade to the point it sticks down. And if you're trying to come up into the back of a pickup truck, those blades on those AYPs, if they've been bent, will catch on every stupid, dumb thing they can possibly find. So the lower profile trailers with the lower profile long ramps make a huge difference in loading broken down tractors. Without a question, that is another major game changer, is being able to get into a trailer that's about a foot off the ground or so, about a foot to a foot and a half off the ground versus 3 feet in the air on a truck, is a huge game changer on how hard it is to load a dead tractor. That's another thing I tell people all the time. The sooner you can upgrade into a trailer, the better off you are. Thoughts on a Cub 2185, a 25 horsepower Kohler? I see one for $100 or best offer, runs, looking good, but no deck. I know nothing about Cub Cadets. See, okay. If you're dealing with a 25 Kohler, then you're dealing with the upper big block Kohler. And that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. If you're dealing with a 25 Kohler, it means that your only interchangeable parts you're going to find, because it's the big block series, are 25 and 27s. Which means actually, I have one right here. Oh, wait, no, I took it downstairs. Your carburetor for those is about $20 more. Your starter for those is, it's bigger than the 18, 21, 20, 23, if I remember right. I'm sure somebody will correct me on that one. It's 18, 20. I think it's 18, 21, 23 that all use the smaller starter, and then 25, 27 use the bigger starter, if I remember right. The problem with the 25, but also the bonus of the 25, is it is the big block series. It is a torque monster. And P.S., it is exactly what all of the bigger drag racers at the place that I go to, they hunt for those as the 25 and the 27. They refer to the 27 as the unicorn engine, because it is 726 cc, if I remember right, which puts it just under the 750 cc limit of the big mod class. The other thing about Cub Cadets that you have to watch out for is make sure that it's a real Cub Cadet. Do your research, look around, make sure it is a real Cub Cadet, unlike, say, a 1045. A 1045 Cub Cadet is not a Cub Cadet. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you want to say. If you take a MTD Yardman and you put it, and you take the hood off, and you black and white the photo, and you put a 1045 Cub Cadet right next to it, and you black and white the photo, they're the same bloody machine. They're the same thing. They're no ifs, ands, or buts. Everything interchanges. Certain Cub Cadets are nothing more than a yard machine with a different hood, and you pay $200 to $400 more because it has a plastic hood that says Cub Cadet. So do your research. Make sure it is a real Cub Cadet. Okay? The same thing with John Deeres and Sabres. Make sure it is a real John Deere and not a Sabre John Deere. If you're buying a Sabre, you're actually buying a rebranded Murray, or you're buying a rebranded, I can't think of what it is, but I'm sure somebody will decide to go and remind me. Does anybody remember what the rebranded one is for the Sabre, where the deck height thing is between your legs and you have to press the two levers and lift it up and down? If I remember right, it's a version of Toro from back in like the 90s that got rebranded as a Sabre. I'm pretty sure I remember it as a Toro, but I'm sure somebody's going to go and come back and say something about it. So it's the Sabre with the deck engagement where you reach down between your legs and you pinch the two loops together and then you go up and down with it. Let's see. Hey, Jesse.
Yeah.
Lauren says you were just fattening up the adult cat to make it better eating.
You ain't gonna like me.
Jesse says you're not going to like her if you try and eat Pouncer. Her name is Pouncer. All right, let's see. Scrap metal is like 30 a ton last I checked in northeastern Nebraska. Holy cow, that is even lower. That's massive, dude. Like, that means like an entire car would be like $60. Wow, no wonder people are parting out all over Marketplace right now. That's the big thing. Like, on Marketplace right now, all across Maine and stuff, everything is part out. Everything is, I got this Chevy pickup truck, part out, this part, that part, whatever, this part, blah, blah, blah. I have this Toyota Prism. I have this Toyota whatever thing, that stupid eco car that all the people that hate diesels drive. Prius. I have this Toyota Prius here that part out. Everything in my area across Marketplace is all part out. And the there was a Ford Ranger on Marketplace the other day that was listed as bad frame, part out only $700 to buy because that's what I value the part out at. Like, have you guys seen that craziness showing up in Marketplace around the rest of the country, or is that just a Maine thing showing up? Let's see. Okay, just trying to go and catch up on where you guys are at and stuff. All right. This is a question I get asked quite often. And so I'm gonna go and pull this one up out of this group of you guys discussing here. Dante, I'm assuming it's Dante or Dante. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. Hey, quick question. Is fixing push mowers a profitable business? And
It can be.
it can be, but it is nowhere near as profitable as it is to fix lawn tractors. And the way that I explain that to people, because I don't deal with push mowers because the profit margin on them just isn't worth it to me. So the problem that happened with push mowers is Walmart. So Walmart now sells on a regular basis $100 and $140 push mowers. And so if you cannot fix it in order to sell it for like 75 bucks at the most, and it isn't in decent, good looking condition, it's not worth it. And the problem is, yes, you might get it for free, but by the time you get a free push mower, you got a $15 carb into it, you got 2 hours worth of tinkering into it, and let's put your value per hour of your time at like say $15. So you got $30 worth of labor charge into it, you got a $15 carb into it, plus whatever cleaner supplies you end up into it, you've got $45 plus a little extra into something you can only sell for 75. Versus if I have a lawn tractor that I get for free and I put a $15 carb into it, a $10 filter, it takes me 2 hours to work on, and I might have to do a couple of belts at say $40 worth of belts on the high side if you don't shop around. So you got basically about $90 plus the gas to go get it. Say $15 is what I usually average as far as the amount of gas I spend to go get a machine. So you got a $100, $105 bill into something guaranteed basically to be worth $250 minimum. So that's $150 worth of profit, including your 2 hours worth of labor you paid yourself for dealing with this stupid thing. So I do know a guy who makes money flipping push mowers. But he's in a very interesting situation. And here's the interesting situation he's in when he flips push mowers. He lives about a 3-mile drive away from a large metal cycling facility. And the facility is willing to set him aside all of the push mowers that come in, and he pays them $5 a mower as long as the top cap of the motor is not destroyed. Because you need that pretty cap in order to sell them. Just like with a lawn tractor, if you don't have a hood, don't even bother trying to sell the thing because nobody's going to give you what it's worth. I have no idea why it is apparently that stupid hood means so much to somebody, but they will literally try and talk you down to like $100 for a $400 machine if it doesn't have that dumb sheet metal hood. So he pays them $5 per push mower that has the pretty cap still on it. On the opposite direction of where he lives, about 2 miles away, is the city dump and transfer station. And so he works on one side of whichever one, I can't remember whichever it is. And every time, it's the junkyard. He works on the other side of the junkyard. So he gets to check it on the way to work, and he checks it on the way back from work to his house. And then he has to go to the transfer station in order to get rid of trash, because he lives in a house of 4 people living in the house. He constantly has to go to the transfer station, and he pulls the machines that he finds there for free in order to have parts to go and fix machines. So he has a situation where he's constantly got a reoccurring stock of freebies. And the other thing is he takes his freebies, and when he's done with his freebies, in order to take 5 and make 2 to sell, he takes the other 3 and he takes them to the junkyard and junks them out in order to make a few bucks back. So that particular scenario works. But in order to make money off of push mowers, you've got to have an area of people living that have small enough lawns to consistently have the turnaround of needing them. And you have to have a constant source of utter cheap ones to be able to work with. And that goes down to my saying of, I'll take any MTD that's free, but I will only pay $50 for an MTD with a motor that I can turn over and isn't blown. Because that's the only way you have a profit margin on rebuilding MTDs. Because your MTD drive belts are 5/8 belts. So they're guaranteed $20 a belt. So there's $40 right there. You're guaranteed that the deck belt is gone. So there's another 20 there. So that's 60 invested. You're going to need a carburetor. So there's another $20 bill plus your filter for that. Guaranteed it's been sitting long enough it needs a fuel filter and fuel line. So there's another $10. So in order to go and make, and that's providing that you can manage to sharpen the blades and that your spindle bearings aren't shot and that the deck is savable. You're investing right off the bat, guaranteed almost every single time to fix an MTD in order to do it right, about $140 investment to sell a $250 machine, because nobody will pay anything for an MTD. They know that everybody buys them for $800 at Walmart, so why would they pay anything major for them? So, you know, that's just, can you make money at it? Yes. Do you need to be in the right scenario to make money at it? Yes. The other way that I know guys make money doing push mowers is they do curbside hunting on trash day. But yet again, you got to be in a suburbanite area in order to be able to do that. And you also have to be in a suburbanite area that allows you to go trash picking on trash days. A lot of areas do not allow you to trash pick anymore because they don't like people going through and trashing the trash cans, trying to pull metal in order to take to the junkyards and stuff. So check what your laws are first before you start trash picking in your area. Here in my area, it's not illegal to do, but it's highly frowned on. So I only trash pick if I see something that's really enticing to me. Let's see. Have you ever had a tractor catch fire on you? Multiple times. Many, many, many times I have had tractors catch fire on me. That's part of the reason why it is I am ultra paranoid about Briggs opposed twins. Briggs opposed twins, I have had 4, I believe, at this point. No, 5. I had one this summer. I've had 5 different Briggs opposed twins decide to, in some form, catch fire on me. And it's because the way the manifolds come down and around, I can't remember which side it is on them. If I was looking at one, I would know. But on one of the sides, the shroud comes down and around just close enough to the exhaust, and it comes out and over the exhaust that mice love to pack that area full of mouse nests. And so Briggs opposed twins, I am ultra paranoid about always around where the fins are and stuff. I always stick a finger up in there and poke around and make sure there's not a mouse nest, especially on the side where the exhaust is higher up. On that side, they like to catch fire because of them. GT3000s and GT5000s, like the one that was recently in a video, those are actually notorious for scaring people with exhaust fires, but usually the exhaust fire happens down in the front, and it usually burns the front of the tractor where the grill is. It doesn't usually happen in underneath the carburetor like the one that I brought home and I did the video on. So as far as have I had them catch fire? Oh yeah. If you turn over as many tractors as I do in a summer, you're guaranteed to have at least one catch fire every summer or every other, especially if you don't pay attention to checking for mouse nests. Always, always, always. If there is even a remote chance that that machine sat for more than, I'd say about 2 months. 2 months there seems to be enough grease and grime and grit that it keeps the mice out for about 2 months. But if it sat anything more than 2 months, be paranoid, always double check. It has saved me from burning down my garage multiple times. And the first opposed twin that ever caught fire on me actually caught fire in the back of my garage. Back when I used to do this, before I had the canopy out front, I actually used to line up tractors down through the bay of my garage so that I was working on 3 tractors at once in my garage, but they were lined up. So basically, if I had a basket case machine that was going to take weeks to get the parts or put together, I would put it all the way to the back of the garage. I'd put a semi-basket case in the center, and I'd put the simplistic just needs to sharpen blades machine in the front of the garage. And I had the center machine catch fire in my garage, but I was lucky the fact that I had, I always keep 5-gallon buckets of water now around my garage, and I had a bucket and I managed to douse it out before it really went up. But that's part of the reason why I shoot the tractor hunt videos at the front of the garage, under the canopy or someplace like that, because if it ever really majorly went up in fire, then there's no reason I couldn't manage to grab my truck, throw a chain on it, and haul it out of my garage and get it, away from things if the gas started to catch or something. But yeah, that was a right royal reality check on needing to change protocols when that happened. So just a heads up, guys, I can see that we've got a bunch of questions and stuff still going on. I'm starting to lose my voice here. I've been at it consistently all day today. I am very tired. So in about 10, 11 minutes or so, when we hit 8 o'clock, we're going to call this good for the chat. I'm really glad to go and see the turnout here. We had, at one point, we had 58 people watching live tonight. So we've had a heck of a decent turnout for me posting up only like 45 minutes before that I was going to be able to do tonight's chat. I'm sorry for the short notice. I really wasn't expecting to, I kind of wasn't expecting to make it home in time, but I made a promise to a friend of mine that I would help him with his cordwood. And when you make a promise to somebody who's helped you, you got to make sure to help them. So I'm really glad that he's got about 5 cord worth of wood now in order to be able to burn and stay warm this winter. But I'm also really, really glad that we're almost done with it, because stacking wood sucks. It just is what it is, but he's going to be warm this winter. So I kept my promise and we know he's safe. Let's see. I have a Briggs with 13 horsepower with 50 PSI compression. It burns a lot of oil. So in other words, you have just about every Briggs that was ever created after, like, 1980s. To be quite honest, it really doesn't surprise me. I'm at the point now with especially overhead Briggs Intech engines. I'm at the point now where I pretty much stock head gaskets for them, planning on the idea that about every 4th one that I bring home is a blown head gasket. I'm at the point now with swapping out head gaskets on those single cylinder Intex that I can do it in about half an hour and be able to have the valves put back in and retuned in about that amount of time if I've got the air tools already pumped up. I mean, ironically, what takes more time to do that is actually getting the little right angle air tool sander thing in order to be able to buff out the top of the head and to be able to buff out the head, buff out the top of the cylinder head and to be able to buff out the head in order to be able to go and put a new gasket on is what eats up more of your time than actually getting the head off of the machine if you know what you're doing. But I probably swap out at least 12 of those a summer at this point. They're commonplace as all get out, and you might as well just get used to it because they're only getting worse as we progress. When I first started doing this, I probably ran into like 1 in 10 or so single cylinder Intex with a blown head gasket. At this point, I pretty much plan on 1 in 4. That's how much they've degraded over the years. I'm going from New Hampshire to Ohio to do a mud run with 20 to 30 tractors. Want to come? I wish I could, dude. But that's outside of my ballpark on what I'm capable of right now. The thing about being a YouTuber and living off of YouTube is there is a famous saying of you can always be happy as long as you live within your means and know your means. And that is the real world thing about being a YouTuber and living off of YouTube is I know about what my baseline pay is going to be. I've done it long enough. I know what it usually is. But there are some months where it utterly flops. And there are other months where I'll have a video that for no apparent reason will make hundreds upon hundreds of dollars that I just don't understand why it did. To be quite honest, that a perfect example, to be quite honest, is that Yardbird machine. The Yardbird machine that I made with John, I literally basically made that machine to document mine and John's time because I wanted it documented for me, but I decided to share it with you guys. And, as part of the channel. And if you had told me that video in less than a week would I think it's at like 18,000 views or like 20,000 views or something like that. If you had told me in less than a week that thing would get 20,000 views, I would have utterly I would have put $20 on it that you were wrong. Like that video there, even in all the time I've done YouTube, I never would have foreseen that video pulling 20,000 views. To be quite honest, I expected it to get 2,000 views, 3,000 maybe. But the fact that 20,000 people decided to watch that video just still astounds me. And that's part of being a YouTuber is to this day, I'm still discovering things. I'm still learning what you guys like and the things that I can improve on what you guys like for you guys to enjoy the videos more. And I try very hard to listen to the group dynamic of what you guys would like for videos. If you as an individual decide to go and send me a message or something being, hey, you should do this. Yes, I do cite the fact that somebody said something and I think about it. But when I end up with a group of people coming in and saying something, then I usually try to really work on whether that's a dynamic that needs to change. That's actually how the tractor hunt videos changed over the years. What changed in the tractor hunt videos over the years is that when I originally started doing the tractor hunt videos, I never included the in the truck starting part of talking about where the tractor is or how far I have to go or what the cost of it is or what I negotiated for or any of that kind of pre-game. That was a change that was done to the tractor hunt videos because of you guys, the fans. I actually changed how those videos were organized and how they were done because of the fact that you guys, with a massive, overwhelming statement, interest, wanted to know like the pre-game or the pre, however you want to word it, the preamble. There, that's what I'm trying to say. You guys wanted to know the preamble to the tractor hunt, and I never thought that was interesting to any of you. That's why it was never in the original tractor hunt video series. And so that is an example of being a YouTuber and learning as you go and learning what your fans like and stuff like that. I still refuse to change who I am, and I still refuse to do fake news and fake reviews and all that other kind of stuff. Case in point, that dead doornail. This is going to get torn open in a video because I can't get over how I'm curious what went wrong with this thing. But in Skill's defense, I did register this with the warranty, and they did warranty it, and they did send me a brand spanking new one. Now, granted, it didn't show up in the 2 days that they told me it was going to show up, and I did have to go and spend 40 plus minutes on hold waiting for their customer service and a bunch of other stuff. But I want to know why it stopped working. So we're going to tear this apart in a video pretty soon, and we're going to see whether we can fix it or whether it was a waste of time to tear apart or what's in the stupid thing, because, you know, that's the way I am. I get curious and I decide to share my curiosities with you guys. Let's see. Where is John? John's currently with his biological mother right now. Openly, I've stated a few times that John and his bio mom and I have a very shared custody, and we have a pretty much almost 50-50 custody situation, which is really different than most situations. Most fathers in my area after a divorce are very lucky if they end up with an every other weekend or an every other couple of days weekend situation. Me, on the other hand, I have a very shared custody with John and his bio mom. Let's see. Mr. Scott, when did MTD buy them out? Okay, let's clarify that MTD statement just so that everybody understands. So, MTD rents out the patent rights to make their mowers and put a different hood on it. So, well, okay. So, as an ex-alcoholic, I'll share with you the same kind of situation. So, most people don't understand why it is that you can go in, and as an alcoholic, people will notice it, that if you buy a case of Bud Light and you can buy another entire case of Bud Light and you can drink through, you know, one case and start the next case and have the next case taste entirely different slightly than the other case did. And the reason being is because breweries rent the right to create Bud Light to sell. They don't actually, Bud Light is not actually created entirely by Budweiser. It's actually a rental right program, and they have a list of what you're allowed to make it with that the breweries have to go by. And that's the reason why you can buy a case of Bud Light and it'll taste different than another case that you buy at the exact same store. And as an ex-alcoholic, that's an interesting little tidbit to go and know about. MTD is the same idea, only they're allowed to rebrand. They're allowed to put their logo and their make, model, whatever on it, but they're renting the right to create MTD chassis, and they pay MTD a certain amount per chassis or whatever that they're creating. AYP does the same thing with Craftsman's, Husqvarna's, Wizards, Airines, stuff like that. So you need to understand that when you're dealing with it. That's the reason why a weed eater is the same thing as the 1045 Cub Cadet, just a different hood. Okay? Let's see. All right, you guys definitely ended up getting into the comments and stuff. All right, guys. Oh, jerk of all trades. Hey, dude. Long time no see is right. Only about an hour and a half or so. Well, no, 2 hours. About 2 hours since I saw you. Jerk of all trades is the guy I was talking about earlier that I was helping with cutting up his wood and getting that loaded up on a trailer. So he'll be warm this winter. You know, I made a promise to him that I was going to go and help, and you got to keep your promises. A man is nothing without his word. But okay. So anyways, guys, I'm losing my voice. We're going to go and do another live chat probably on Halloween on Halloween night. I'm sorry that I didn't manage to go and get down all your 3 million questions and stuff. You're welcome to go and send me an email, and I will try to get down through all the questions in the email. But I'm going to lose my voice, and I have 2 different how-to videos that I need to be working on tomorrow. So I kind of need to be able to talk so you guys understand what's going on in the how-to videos. So everybody have a good night, and thank you very much. And I hope you guys stay out of trouble.